2025 gave us unforgettable wars, dramatic turnarounds, and fights that pushed fighters to their limits. From championship clashes to all-out battles, these are the bouts that define the year. Here are the top 10 fights of 2025. Fernando "Puma" Martinez versus Kazuto Ioka, Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes. Fernando Martinez and Kazuto Ioka delivered another high-level tactical battle in their anticipated rematch. Early on, the fight echoed their first meeting, with Martinez applying relentless pressure and high volume to keep Ioka on the back foot. This time, however, Ioka adjusted. As the rounds wore on, he began timing Martinez's entries, slipping shots and landing sharp counters, especially to the body, which steadily slowed the younger man. By the later rounds, momentum had shifted, and Ioka's experience started to shine. The pivotal moment came in the 10th, when Ioka dropped Martinez with a perfectly timed shot, briefly swinging the fight his way. Martinez showed real grit, rallying late and finishing strong in the 12th to leave a lasting impression. After 12 hard rounds, the judges narrowly favored Martinez, rewarding his pressure and activity. The win sets him up for a showdown with Bam Rodriguez, while Ioka proved in defeat that his skill, toughness, and ring IQ are far from faded. Abdullah Mason delivered an entertaining but demanding performance against Sam Noakes, showcasing both his talent and his growing pains. From the opening bell, Mason chose excitement over caution, often engaging when smarter boxing could have made the fight easier. Noakes capitalized with pressure and physicality, forcing Mason into uncomfortable moments that tested his composure and resolve. Rather than folding, Mason dug deep, absorbing shots, firing back, and refusing to back down when the fight tightened. In the end, Mason's heart and determination carried him through. It wasn't flawless, but it was formative. The defensive lapses are clear lessons for the future, yet the ability to survive adversity and still win speaks volumes. Win, learn, survive, and grow. Mason did all three. Mohamed Wasim versus Jakrawut Majungoen. Mohamed Wasim endured a nightmare start, getting dropped twice in the opening round before he could find his footing. It was the kind of beginning that often spells disaster, but Wasim showed immediate resolve. As the fight settled, he regrouped and began turning the tide, landing sharp hooks and uppercuts while gradually pushing Jakrawut Majungoen backward. By the middle rounds, Wasim was no longer in survival mode, he was asserting himself. Another knockdown in the 5th threatened to derail everything, but in front of his home crowd, quitting was never an option. Drawing energy from the fans, Wasim raised his tempo, used smart footwork, and strung together clean, purposeful combinations. By the final bell, both fighters were spent, but Wasim's grit stood out. The judges awarded him a narrow decision, one earned through heart, resilience, and sheer determination. It was more than a win. It was a reminder of boxing's ultimate truth. Skill matters, but will decides. Junto Nakatani versus Sebastian Hernandez Reyes pound for pound standout. Junto Nakatani returned in a high-stakes semi-final ahead of his looming super fight with Naoya Inoue, expected to take place at the Tokyo Dome. Nakatani started sharply, using his jab and shot selection to control range and tempo. Hernandez Reyes stayed patient early, studying and waiting for openings. Once he closed the distance, though, the fight shifted dramatically. On the inside and near the ropes, Hernandez unloaded with authority, using pressure and physicality to force hard exchanges. The bout became a clear fight of two halves, with both men taking damage as the rounds wore on. Nakatani, in particular, showed visible signs of a grueling battle as Hernandez continued to test him. After a fiercely contested 12 rounds, Nakatani escaped with a razor-thin split decision. One scorecard raised eyebrows, but the result reflected just how close the fight was. Controversy aside, it was a demanding, high-level test, one that sharpened Nakatani ahead of an even bigger challenge to come. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Legacy and rivalry collided as Chris Eubank Jr. finally faced Conor Benn in a showdown decades in the making. Carrying the weight of their father's iconic feud, both men entered with something to prove beyond their surnames. Benn started fast and aggressive, pressing forward with speed and sharp combinations. Eubank stayed calm and disciplined, using his size, reach, and experience to manage distance and avoid being dragged into a reckless exchange. As the fight wore on, Eubank took control. His jab and timing began to slow Benn's momentum, and his counterpunching punished the younger fighter's bursts of aggression. Benn continued to push with courage and intent, but sustaining the early pace became increasingly difficult. By the middle rounds, Eubank's composure and physicality were telling. It became a classic clash of youth and explosiveness versus experience and control. Both men fought to the final bell, leaving nothing behind. The decision went to Eubank, but the real victory was the moment itself, a rivalry reborn, expectations met, and British boxing enriched by a long-awaited chapter finally written. Nonito Donaire versus Seiya Tsutsumi. At 43, all-time great, Nonito Donaire returned once more, challenging undefeated WBA bantamweight champion Seiya Tsutsumi in a bid to break his own longevity records. On paper, it looked daunting, but Donaire refused to go quietly. Early on, the veteran was sharp and composed, disrupting Tsutsumi's rhythm with smart pressure and crisp counters. The champion, usually a high-volume attacker, looked hesitant and uncomfortable. Donaire nearly turned back the clock in the fourth round, badly staggering Tsutsumi with a counter right hand followed by a brutal combination. Only the bell spared the champion. As the fight moved into the second half, age and stamina began to tell. Tsutsumi found his rhythm, increasing pressure and volume while Donaire gradually slowed. Still, the legend showed flashes of brilliance and grit, battling through to the final bell. After a true fight of two halves, Tsutsumi retained his title by split decision. The belt stayed with the champion, but the admiration of the crowd belonged firmly to Donaire. Seiya Tsutsumi versus Daigo Higa. Seiya Tsutsumi and Daigo Higa met again in a highly anticipated rematch after their first bout ended in a disputed draw. Higa entered with momentum. Fresh off a narrow title loss, many felt he deserved to win. Early trouble struck Tsutsumi when a head clash opened a nasty cut. Forced to adapt, he switched southpaw and pressed forward relentlessly, overwhelming Higa with volume and work rate. Higa remained dangerous, firing back with sharp, eye-catching shots that kept the fight on a knife's edge. The ninth round delivered pure chaos. Higa dropped Tsutsumi with a crushing shot, only for Tsutsumi to rise and dramatically floor Higa moments later in a breathtaking momentum swing, one of the year's most electrifying rounds. After 12 fiercely contested rounds, history repeated itself. The judges ruled another draw, a fitting result for a rivalry defined by razor-thin margins, toughness, and unforgettable drama. Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro. Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro was a full-blown Mexican war, violent, relentless, and fought at a blistering pace from start to finish. Both men came out throwing with bad intentions. Cruz applied heavy early pressure, looking to overwhelm Fierro with his trademark aggression, but the pace began to drain him. As the fight wore on, Fierro grew stronger, matching Cruz's intensity and gradually taking control in the second half. Fierro made a statement as early as the third round, visibly hurting Cruz. No small feat given Cruz's durability. Even when rocked, Cruz refused to retreat, standing his ground and turning the bout into a brutal phone booth exchange. One wide scorecard failed to reflect how savage and competitive the fight truly was, but the action told the real story. This wasn't about finesse, it was about toughness, heart, and endurance. Regardless of the scores, the fight delivered exactly what fans expected. Non-stop exchanges, sustained violence, and a reminder of why Mexican matchups remain some of boxing's most thrilling spectacles. Yumir Marcial versus Eddie Colmenares. Yumir Marcial versus Eddie Colmenares was a punishing 10-round war that exposed flaws, tested heart, and demanded pure willpower. Marcial started fast, clearly taking the first two rounds with his explosiveness and power. But his aggression left him open, and Colmenares made him pay in the third, rocking him with a right hand and flooring him with a sustained barrage. From there, the fight turned into a brutal battle of attrition. Marcial's defensive lapses and limited footwork were evident, forcing him to rely more on toughness than technique. Colmenares kept the pressure on, trading heavily and refusing to fade. Colmenares dropped Marcial again in the 10th, underlining how fierce and competitive the contest had been. The judges returned a split decision. 2 narrow cards for Marcial and 1 draw, though many felt the result could have gone the other way. Officially a win for Marcial, the bout was defined by grit rather than polish, a raw, violent test of endurance that showcased the toughness of both fighters. Christian and Billy versus Lester Martinez. Christian and Billy versus Lester Martinez was a high-level super middleweight clash that delivered from start to finish. Billy did what he does best early, pressing hard, closing distance, and forcing exchanges with relentless physicality. Martinez countered with poise, showing why he's regarded as one of the division's sharpest boxer punchers, timing Mbili's entries with clean counters and well-placed power shots. The opening rounds were high octane, but as the fight progressed, Mbili's early intensity dipped and Martinez found his rhythm, enjoying more success in the latter stages. Momentum swung throughout, with neither fighter able to fully seize control. By the final bell, it felt like a chess match fought at full speed. The draw reflected the action perfectly. Razor-thin margins, contrasting styles, and two elite fighters proving exactly why they sit among the best at 168 pounds. Kenshiro Teraji versus Seigo Yuri Akui. In just the third all-Japanese unification bout in boxing history, flyweight champions Kenshiro Teraji and Seigo Yuri Akui delivered an instant classic. Teraji, unusually stationary, traded at close range while Akui imposed himself with size, strength, and a relentless straight right hand. Akui exploited Teraji's defensive gaps, but Teraji stayed sharp, slipping counters and landing clean shots to remain competitive in a fierce battle of wills. The seventh round was pure chaos, a non-stop exchange where Teraji landed often, yet Akui continued marching forward unfazed. After 11 punishing rounds, Teraji trailed on all three cards and needed something dramatic. He found it in the 12th. Teraji surged forward with urgency, the cumulative damage finally breaking Akui down. With Akui badly hurt and damage on his lip, the referee stepped in as the challenger collapsed moments later. In one of the greatest flyweight fights ever seen, and a bout that will live forever in Japanese boxing history, Kenshiro Teraji pulled off a stunning, unforgettable comeback. Those were the fights that made 2025 special. Pure heart, drama, and grit. Let us know which fight was your number one and which ones you'll never forget. Boxing always delivers.